right, guys, welcome to Pick Money, the podcast. Thank you for jumping on today. Here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to take, I had a lot of questions that were sent to me, and thank you for that. I appreciate it. I'm going to answer a bunch of those. But I want to start by, I was sitting here the other day, a guy was interviewing me, and he's building a really big business in his mid-20s, and he's in a completely different industry than any of the ones I've built and sold and done all that. I've invested in companies in his space. And he said, what is something you wish you knew that, like, today, you wish you knew back in the day? Now, everybody asks that question, right? And you can kind of pass over and go, man, like, who cares? And, man, that's so cliche, and everybody asks the same question. But it's a really important question to be able to think about. And my answer was, when I was 20, 21, 22, I wish that I was the student in business that I eventually became, because I would have grown faster. I didn't, decide to listen to people in business, go to anything that could help develop me, find guys that were different. I mean, I had coaches when I was younger that I listened to on some level, but they were tough guys. They were hard asses. I was fired up about that. I wouldn't, like, that's how I was in general. So they're yelling, screaming, making money. I'm like, I'm in. What are we going to do? But I didn't really buy into mentorship until I was in my 30s. I think I just kind of got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm not having the result I want. These other guys are having the result I want. Why would I not listen to every single thing that they're saying? So, and over the last 20 years in doing that, I've had unbelievable success in all the industries I've been in. And I always had success moderately because I worked hard. So I could always outwork sales, recruiting, management. So I held on to that. So if you're like, what was your biggest skill set? My work. Whether you may have learned more things along the way than me, you may not have outworked me. That was my deal. I was outworking everybody. So you might have had more knowledge, but you weren't working, so it really didn't much matter. I had this obnoxious work ethic because I can't sit still. I can't go backwards. I'm afraid to go backwards. I'll die before I go backwards. So for me, it's like, what if I just got the information, put it together with this ridiculous mother freaking work ethic, and look what would happen? So I wish I had done that. And I was talking to a 20-year-old kid in his business, completely different industry, trying to be good at sales. And I walk him through why he's not having success. And he says to me, well, you know what? I gave this guy $2,000 to coach me for like an hour. And he's like, and I didn't help me and yada, yada, yada. I said, well, who was it? And we started talking. I was like, well, why did you think this guy could help you? I'm not being mean, but he took you $2,000. Like, why did you believe he could help you? What has he done that you want to do? What does he have that you want to have? What does he accomplish you want to accomplish? Those are all the questions you got to ask yourself when you're vetting out your mentors. But he didn't ask any of those. The guy just seemed excited. The guy was charismatic. The guy said, give me $2,000. I said, dude, and he said, and I looked at, you do a coaching program. I go, yeah, you could have joined my coaching program for 20 years. Seriously, like, it's $9 a month. So if it was $10 a month, it's $120 a year. Am I wrong about that being $1,200 every 10 years? I mean, dude, it's almost 20 years you could have gotten mentored every single week. You gave some guy $2,000 for an hour who's never been in business. And I do it. We do it every single week. You want to join? It's noon Eastern, live. I do a training, 15, 20 minutes about what I think we need to talk about that week. And I do live question answer for 40 minutes. So I'll drop a link. You can jump in there. You go ahead. It's a great community, great group of people. And all we're trying to do is make a difference. Why do we do it for $9.97 a month? Because we want people to be able to, like, go put money in their business. And if you don't put something in there, there's no skin in the game. But it's $9. There's plenty of other things I do with plenty of other coaching-wise and whatnot, but this is a phenomenal deal that I set up, and I was excited because I know what you want to know if you're in business and trying to scale sales, management, trying to become a better leader for you, trying to understand profitability. What does my EBITDA margin look like? Where should I be spent? So I can go on and on and on about the things we talk about. So I wanted to start there because it really hit me that, and it's what's made me good. Give me something that doesn't require talent. I was just at the rodeo the other day, and the guy was like, how did you learn to ride a horse? I'm like, well, what do you mean, how did I learn? Like, the guy that was bringing the horse over to me, he said, have you ridden before? And I was like, not really. And I was like, he's like, you want me to tell you what to do? I was like, yeah, dude, because it's a pretty big animal. If it starts taking off, I really don't want to fall off it, man. I fall off a bull before I broke my neck. I don't really want to fall off a horse trying to butt me off. Tell me. And then when he tells me every single thing he's saying, I'm listening to. Everything he instructs me, I'm a really good student. I wasn't that student when I was 20 years old. I go ride a bull. I can remember what he told me. Where the balance, what I do in here, how I tuck the thing in, how I'm squeezing the bull, how I do that, how I bounce. The only thing I didn't pay attention to is how when you fall off, to fall off the right way without breaking something, because I was so focused on how to stay on. But that was important training as well, because when I hit the ground, it would have been a much better had I rolled and done what he asked me to do when it dropped me instead of just boom, hitting the ground. So I say that to tell you that you're only going to be as good as the information that you have, the knowledge you have, the connections you have. You need the work ethic. Without the work ethic, it doesn't matter. And then I think you have to decide, when I'm picking money, am I picking enough money to get by, or am I picking enough where my family's not going to have to worry about money? I was picking enough for my family to have to worry about money. I wasn't picking enough to be able to pay my bills for 2 weeks or a month and a half. I wanted to pick, and I was picking money as what I needed for my family, the fuel they needed to support their lives, the things they were going to do in the future, the people I knew were still going to rely on me in my family, that I wanted to do that where we weren't worried about the money. If they needed something, we did it. If my mother needed something medically, I could do it. If my brother needed, if my kids needed something, whatever the deal was, anybody in my family I was responsible for. If they need it, I'm there for them. So, all right. So, ask Drew to ask some questions. I can't get to all of them, but I want to get some of them answered. Fire away, Drew. All right. So, when you're in sales and you're managing a sales force, whatever they're selling, how do you help them get profitable? Number one. So, how do I get them making money? And number two, how do I keep them making money? Because the magic to picking money is make enough. My opinion, you make enough, and it's worked very well for me. Learned this from somebody that was a success family-wise that I'd never been around anybody that had, you're one of the wealthiest people you'll meet. Like I was able to watch and see him say to me, you're going to work as hard as you can to make as much money as you can, right? Cool, yep, got it. Then you're going to build a pile of money, and then you're going to find the right people to help you invest that money, make the right decisions where you can live off of what that pile makes you every single day, week, month. And then whatever else you do outside of that is going to be extra. So when I got into sales, I worked the way you get people to, your agents to grow, your salespeople to go, whether it was real estate, life insurance, when I was in construction sales, whatever I've been involved selling, I always sold. The greatest way for me to lead people was lead them by example, lead them, people always say, lead from the front. Well, you don't need to be at the front always, but you better be running with everybody. Like, you don't always have to be at the front, because everybody can't be number one, number two, number three, number four, but everybody can work hard. So if you are working with salespeople and you're scaling your business, how hard are you working? What are you putting into it? Are you showing them that you're in it with them? Because the validity of your advice diminishes immensely if you are not or have not done what you're asking them to do. Even if they believe you're a great person, believe you're super smart, believe you're super accomplished, they're still going to be tone deaf on some level to what you're saying because you ain't done it. So are you actively selling the product that you're trying to teach them to sell? Number one. Number two, have you been honest with them about what they need to be successful in sales? When I hired anybody, no matter where I was at, I was like, here's what you need. You'll spend this much in leads. Here's how many hours a day you're going to dial, you're going to meet with people. Like, I broke down for them the expectations. What a lot of folks do is they don't do that. They're so excited to get you started, they don't really want to make you nervous. So like, get started. It's the greatest thing in the history of the world. Oh my good God. And then I come in, I'm like, okay, so I got to get leads. Yeah, well, you never told me, which is fine. But I'm like, why? This is weird. You didn't tell me. And now I wanted to make money. I was good either way. All right, cool, I get leads. I got to dial how many hours a week? Oh, I didn't. I got to do that. Like tell them everything. The good, the bad, the in the middle. Tell them literally everything. Okay. Then what you have to do is figure out, what do they want? Because there's nothing worse than a guy that you recruit into something. He's laser focused on making $120,000 a year. And somehow you decide that's not supposed to be his goal. He's making 120. He's doing what he has to do to make 120. He's not as profitable as maybe he's making 120 and keeping 70. Now, what you should do in that case is talk about profitability. You're talking about keeping profit. how much money are you making, where can you save the money, where are they spending money they shouldn't be spending. Then discuss with him if he wants to change that. What if he says, man, I'm making 70 grand a year, bro. I was making 30 grand a year before this. I'm pretty happy about it. At that point, you should leave him alone. And I don't mean ignore him, meaning he's doing what he wants to do. Now, you might do that for 3 years. I've had people I've worked with for years. They'll call me up and go, hey, man, I just want more out of life. But they've been with me 3, 4, 5 years. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah, I've been watching what can be done. I don't know why. I was just really complacent. I was just kind of stuck where I was stuck. I wasn't really focused on doing any more. Wish I was, but I wasn't. But I'm in now, dude. Like, I'm in. Because once somebody wants something, it's really easy to guide them on their way there. So the first thing is you have to be doing it. Second thing is you had to analyze their profitability. Third, you have to figure out what they want. What do you actually want? Not what do you think I want you to do. Not what you hear on some call or some meeting. What do you want to do for your family? When I was asked that, what I said to the guy, I said, I want to live not worrying about money. And he said, do you know how much it's going to take for you to do that? I said, no, but a hell of a lot more than I got now. So I don't know, but I'm going to keep moving. It's a hell of a lot more than I have right now. So it's getting people to understand that. That makes sense? So you have to understand that. That's part of your process. And then helping people stay vigilant. The last thing is them understanding what the worst case scenario is. What the worst case scenario is. So, for instance, if they're selling, but whatever product they're selling, it can charge back, there's a right of rescission, there's new fees coming up, whatever the deal is, you need to be honest about that because the person's motivation might be their own fear of loss of what's happening. Here's what you got to pay, here's the cost, here's what can happen here. Like, they have to understand that. Like, when I was in construction, the thing that blew me away was all I had to do was look at my carrying cost and financing. So people are always like, how did you build your houses in 3 to 5 months? I'm like, well, I borrowed the money. They're like, no, I know that, but what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing it with a sense of urgency. I borrowed the money. I'm paying interest every single day I have that money. And if I finish, it takes me 3 to 5 months, I got to put the house in the market. And I don't like to do it when, like, it's just a foundation. I like to do it when I'm pretty close to the end. So now, I don't know, maybe it takes 2 months to go under contract. Maybe it takes another month after that. Now I borrowed the money for 8 months. Then I add up what my interest cost me. I don't want to pay that. So you really start to look at what is the worst case scenario. And other guys just did it with their eyes closed. They didn't care. They're like, dude, I build as many as I can build in a year. I'm like, cool. That's why I sell more than you. I put more units out than you. My quality is better than you. Guys want to work with me. I pay them fast. I pay them good. I know what my margins need to be. I have consistent work. So you need to do all of the above. What else you got, Drew? If I started in sales today over again, had $100,000 in my name, where would I put the money? What would I do? And how would I do that to grow as fast as humanly possible? Well, first of all, I wasn't in sales. I've said this a million times to people. You know, I can print the money through my sales. So I was never enamored with I better go out and borrow 100 or I got 50 or I got 100 grand in my name, let me put 60 grand in my business. Like, dude, I can print money selling. Like that was, so my deal was you need enough leads for you to be successful. So I probably spent a couple $1,000s in leads. I would not go hire an administrative assistant immediately. I would not go open an office. I wouldn't go buy a car for 400 grand and think that's going to help me. I wouldn't do any of those things. I would live the way I'm living. If you are able to, it depends on your family situation, but if you're able to, I'd work 5, 6, 7 days a week. I'd put more hours in than everybody. I wouldn't burn through leads. Just because I had 100 grand doesn't mean I just spend 2 grand and then 2 grand next day or 2 grand 3 days after that. That isn't the solution, because don't ever let a little bit of money screw up your work ethic or how intentional you should be. Because then all of a sudden in the future, you're like, man, I don't have access to that kind of capital. I'm like, we blew all that anyway. You're just spending money to spend money. So be smart with your money. You don't need to pour that into, unless it depends on what you're selling, right? When I was selling real estate, signage, some advertising, marketing, but even there, they were like, here's the required marketing package. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I'm the best salesperson you got, but I'm not doing that. Don't come at me with that shit. Go to somebody else. I'm not doing that. I don't have to do that. Those things are not going to give me a return on my investment. I don't need to spend $5 grand a month in your real estate magazine that you own. I don't need to do that. And we all read those. We're agents. We just look at them for fun. We throw them away. We're not getting clients or prospects from there. So for me, I was really, really, really intentional about it. So what I would do is I would soak up all the knowledge as fast as I could. I'd find the really good people. I'd listen to what they were saying. I'd try to learn those word tracks and the pattern of their speech and their presumptiveness. And I think the magic is just, I was very presumptive very quickly. I think as a manager, I would have taught people presumptiveness really quick. I was at the airport the other day, and this is what I taught people back in the day in another industry. The guy's like, you want to put your tip on the credit card, on your card, or cash? Like, that's what everybody that works for a very, very low rate but relies on tips should say. I tip everybody always have. When I had no money, I was tipping people. My mom worked in the service industry as one of her jobs for many years, and I watched her work really, really, really hard and be really, really dejected when she didn't do well in tips on a given night or a weekend or whatever. So I think when she was bartending or waitressing, like she, they really had a big control of her income. And I always think like one of these people could be my mom. So I, try to make sure I tip real well. But I think you need to be really, really focused on being cautious with your money, because when you have money, people tend to want to spend it. In business, people think, well, I just got to invest it. It's going to work out. And so I've seen a lot of business people spend a lot of money on a lot of stupid shit that had no bearing. I had a buddy of mine is a billionaire many times over, and I said, man, if I had started the company with more money, and he said, you've done ridiculously well, but what would you have done with it? Do you even know? Like, he's like, I said the same thing to myself when I started, but back in the day, I didn't really know. And I was like, that's actually a really good point. I may not have known what to do with it. So, and only take advice from people where you want to be. Everybody and their brother around you can have advice where you should invest the money, where you should put it, what you should do, all of those kind of things. So, well, it's got Drew. Best piece of advice I gave you in sales. Sales is a grind. Sales is a grind. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's juice. It's exciting. It's competition. It is a grind. You will have ups and downs. And if you cannot manage the days and the weeks and the months that they're not going to be as good, then it's going to be hard for you. And if you never, ever acclimate and learn to manage it, you should get out of it. It will eat you alive. That's why I liked it. I liked it because I knew everybody could do it, but most people wouldn't. I wanted an industry that everybody could be in it, where it didn't require talent, but most people wouldn't do what it took. That's why I was drawn to the industry. No talent required, but guess what? Most people ain't going to do it. They're just not. So I think that all of the above, looking at that, that's my best piece of advice. What I will say is understanding as well that there's a difference between having a W-2 job and being a 1099 independent contractor. And I think some people, they never get over the fact that they have to, it's your business, right? You keep all the money. You're not working at, at Uber Eats. You're not working at McDonald's, better example, as a job, Uber Eats, you get your tips. But you're not working at UPS like I did, delivering packages. The company might have made, I don't know how much money off me. I delivered a lot of packages in a day, but I made my hourly rate, period. Now, I didn't spend anything either. So you'd be like, well, you're making, $80,000 a year back then. Yes, and I was paying taxes on 80, but that was my money. Then there's people that want to go make $400,000 a year, but they're like, man, I spent 80 grand. I'm like, yeah, but you netted 320, 3-4 times what you were making before this. But they still can't fathom there's expenses. So you have to understand that it is a grind. You're going to invest in yourself. I don't see it as huge. Investing in a business and putting hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars into a business is risky because you can lose all of it. Invest in yourself to buy leads for a week or two. I mean, even by accident, as long as they're genuine leads, you're going to make enough sales, probably make your money back. So after 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 months, you're like, dude, it's just not for me. Like, what did you lose? So it's one of those things where I'm also a big perspective person when it comes to sales, but don't ever forget it's a freaking grind. Everybody can do it. Most people won't. What else you got? Oh, okay. Good question. Okay. So I'm a huge one-call close person. I sold over the phone in many industries. When I started in life insurance, I was in person. In person, I never went to somebody's house or even door knocked them if they couldn't answer and booked an appointment. So even my peers that were like, I got 9 appointments tomorrow. I'm like, oh, cool. Well, I went out door knock and I booked 9 appointments. I'm like, you were sitting in front of somebody at their home on their front step. You didn't walk in the door and sell them a policy. Wow. Now, I think it's dramatically lower with appointments. But also that doesn't mean you can't do it. Depends on if you're calling to book an appointment or calling to close. Some people are like, dude, I call to book appointments and that's what I do. Okay. How much you selling? I'm selling this much. Okay. Are you happy with that? Yeah, cool. It's enough. I know they're making money. Life is good. I think you need to create a sense of urgency around the phone with people that they are buying then and there, that they are buying then and there. Like, you need to do that. You have to do that. You have to understand that at the end of the day, I just not a huge fan of calling a bunch of people up, already have them on the phone. They are your prospect. They are your lead. They were the person that filled it out. They want your help. And then you go, what's a good time to talk about it? How about now, dude? I'm on the phone with you right now. Now's not a good time. Not for me either. It only takes about 10, 12 minutes. So anyway, boom, move right into it. They didn't answer the phone and not have 10 or 12 minutes. And people are not near as busy as they act like they are. They answered the phone. And I can't believe you called me this early. Well, you did answer, Tom. So I do think it's going to be better now. And it's pretty significantly better, I think. But if you're like, I'm doing well booking and calling the next day, because I think when you get them an appointment, it gives them the opportunity to no-show you. Once they're on the phone with me, I get to go in until they buy or the conversation ends. But I don't have to worry about in the middle of that, them just going like, well, you know what? I thought about it for 2 days. The guy wanted to talk to me. I don't really want to talk to him. I ain't going to be there when he calls. I'm going to act like I don't even know why he's calling. Hell, I'm going to block his number. I'm going to move on with my life. So I think it's dramatically higher when they're one-time close. Man, what traits am I looking for when I'm trying to find somebody to put my money with, to trust my money with, to let them make decisions with my money? Each advisor I picked was from somebody I knew. So what I mean by that is I had a guy I knew that I sold the company to back in the day in real estate, very, very wealthy, had taken care of his family. It was first generation, his money. So he's the one who created the money. And I was like, hey, who's managing your money? And we called him together from his office. And I started working with him. I didn't think a guy worth billions of dollars back then was I just knew he was a really good businessman, really good person. And why in the world would he ever recommend somebody to me? He'd been with him 10, 12, 15 years, told me about his results. And when I did the same thing when I sold life insurance deal, I was like, hey, man, you're in charge of everything. Who do you use? Manage your money. So I don't mind being diversified. I have some money over here with this guy, money over here with this guy, money over here with this guy. And I'm not going to spread it to too many different places. And I like being with a big brokerage. I want to be with somebody big. They have access to information I don't have access to. No, they have people, that's all they do all day long. They built software to do these things, run the analytics, look at the trends, things I'm not going to spend that kind of time doing. So, but I've honestly, each time was a referral from somebody else. I found somebody that had the result that I wanted to have, that had the net worth that I wanted to have, that had provided a lifestyle for people, could give back money, charities like I wanted to. So I was like, you know what, dude, who's managing your money? Because nobody in my family, we weren't sitting around a dining room table talking about this stuff. I don't think anybody ever had the ability to use a broker. I think they were just working. If there was any significant money to put away for any of them. So I think for me, I had to learn that on my own. So why go out and beat my head against the wall? And also knowing when you outgrow people. My very, very first guy was a local guy. I didn't have anybody to ask. I started making some pretty good money. I don't even know how I found him, to be honest with you. He was 30 minutes from where my office was, so I guess that's what it was. And when I sold my first company, I was like, man, after I talked to this other guy he referred me to, was apples and oranges. Like they had nothing in common. And I'll never forget the guy say, can I come to your office? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm still going to move my money, but yeah, sure. And he brought his father-in-law. And it was them together in the firm. And I'm like, man, I've never met your father-in-law. Like, I don't know. And he was just really condescending and really and I'm like, dude, I'm glad I moved my money. And I also was never afraid to. I wasn't worried about like, oh my God, I'm going to hurt his feelings or he's going to be frustrated. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm going to worry about what's best for my family and just do the right thing by other people. But if you weren't servicing my money right, my return wasn't the way it needed to be. And actually, I've been very happy with everybody I picked. But the guy that I had previously, it's okay to say, hey man, I've outgrown your firm here. And I didn't have so much money where I was going to leave it with him anyway. And he wasn't doing right by me. And I don't need to go through what he was putting me in or what he was getting paid. That's all in the past. But I was not getting the return I should have been getting based on the results these other guys were getting. And now, fast forward all these years later, I've been getting those results. and if you don't have access to that information, and a lot of times you just got to ask. You just got to ask. Do I think these guys would have told me who's managing their money had I not been in business with them? Probably not, but I would have asked. Maybe they would have given me the firm. They would have gotten me to somebody, and I'll tell you too, when you get somebody that's managing your money, a lot of people don't do this. Remember what happens to them. They manage money. The market does what it does. Things happen on a daily basis. The ones I've met have been very honest. Like, here's the money over here. This has got very low. He's got very low volatility, but you wanted someone here that's a lot more volatile as far as the ups. And I do believe, for the most part, they all explain that to everybody. And then when people lose money, they like fell down and bumped their head. They can't believe they lost money. It's like, yeah, but you were in like equities. You're in the market. Like, you knew that you could lose. Like, what do you mean you didn't know you could lose it? And they're calling and freaking out on this guy. And one of the best things I did, man, this was probably, I don't know what day it was, but COVID, the world, whatever. I roughly know the month and the beginning, at the time of the month, but the world was. We had a pandemic, and people were panicking, and the market was, tumbling. And the guy that I use, the one who has the majority of money I called him, and I said, and you could just tell it was after like a third or fourth day of just like, what's going to happen? We're going to the greatest recession ever. It's the Great Depression all over again. The apocalypse is upon us, all that. And I said, he said, man, I meant to call you. I've been really bad. I said, whoa, you don't owe me a phone call. I'm just calling you to say, I appreciate you. I know a lot of people are calling you and they're freaking out and they're screaming and yelling, even though you let them know they were in the market. You let them know when they looked at their portfolio and they wanted to be moderately aggressive over here, and you put a percentage of their money in over there. Now they fall down and bump their head. They cannot believe, even though it's moderately aggressive. Anything that's attached to aggressive, there can be loss. I said, I know they're freaking out. I know they don't know what to do. A lot of them are probably extended and over leveraged, and that's neither here nor there. I just want you to know I appreciate you. I care about you, bro, and I want what's best for you. You don't need to call me. I'm not selling off any of this stuff. And I know how the market works in America, and I know what happens, so I'm all good. He's brought that to me probably half a dozen times. And I didn't do it for any other reason other than I was like, I bet this guy's like getting beaten down. Great guy. And I'm like, I'm sure they're coming at him from every angle. So I just call him and tell him, hey, man. And I bet he didn't have many clients do that, if any, aside from me. So also build the relationships with people and tell them what you really want. If you're averse to risk, tell them. People all the time, they're like, man, look at what happened. Look at what's my portfolio. I'm like, bro, why did you tell him? Well, I didn't know this. I'm like, okay, I told him I wanted to be really aggressive. Well, you are really aggressive. Look at your portfolio. And dude, as long as you don't need the money for a long time, those individual plays, I don't know those companies very well, but like this are pretty aggressive, and you signed off on it. It's what you told me. Why did you tell him that? And even if somebody's trying to talk, and if you're working with somebody who's managing your money and they're trying to tell you how you feel, don't let them manage your money. You're the only one that knows that relationship you got with money. How you'll feel about investing it, how you feel about the risk, how you can feel about losing it, how you understand your tax situation. Like, you have to understand that the minute somebody starts telling you need to do X, Y, or Z, and you can tell it ain't about you and it's about them, get out. Get out as fast as you can. Go find somebody else. So listen, first of all, great questions. Thank you very much. We're going to have guests next week, but I had these questions I wanted to get to. I do hope you join the weekly group because it helps people legitimately change their business lives, go become more profitable, better at sales, better at managing people, better at profitability, better at what to do with their money, and getting knowledge that they can't get. And you shouldn't have to pay somebody you saw on the internet that doesn't do anything, $2,000 an hour, that disappears on you when, hell, $9 a month to get you, 17, 18 years of it. So all I'm telling you is love to have you on there. Really appreciate jumping on Pick Money, the podcast. Like, subscribe, share. If somebody needs to hear this, or somebody your team needs to hear it, or somebody you're working with needs to hear it, or somebody that's supporting you needs to hear it, or somebody you're talking to about the business needs to hear it, send it to them. Appreciate your support. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, guys.